Hello all, it's Devara Krasniansky from Adai. Adai is an organization that supports successful marriage, and to that end we have resources and workshops and courses and online courses for dating successfully toward a successful marriage, resources for shalom bayis, and recently we got a grant from the City of New York, thank you, Councilman Matthew Eugene from Crown Heights, for domestic abuse, and so we have resources on that topic as well. Tonight's call is with Rabbi Abba and Rabbi Chanie Perelmuter of Shul by the Shore in Long Beach, California, and we're very grateful for them to join us tonight to talk about Pesach, Shalom Bayis, keeping the peace, even if people have different ideas for what Pesach is about. Chanie and Rabbi Abba are many Pesachs together in big house, small house, with their children, with their grandchildren, and lots of different kinds of Pesachs. So they have lots of different experiences. So I'm really grateful that they are able to join us here tonight. So Rabbi, let's just jump right in.
Okay. Thank you, Devorah, for giving us this opportunity to be with you tonight. Before I start, I want to say, in the name of everyone, all of those listening, and me and Chanie, we want to thank you for all the wonderful and excellent work that you do, the Mesiras Nefesh that you put in for Klal Yisrael in these very, very difficult cases that you deal with. Devorah, we all appreciate it. Thank you so very much from the bottom of our hearts, and I'm Rabbi should bless you and your family with everything that you need and want and care about. So that's number one. A KAARAH to you for what you do. This evening, I guess we're going to be talking about Shalom Bayis and how we could navigate through this period of the year that sometimes becomes stressful, called Pesach cleaning and the SEDER evening. And what we want to do tonight is we want to see if there may be some ways and some practical ideas that we can share. Myself with Chanie, we've been running our Chabad house now for close to 37, 38 years, and we've done a few SEDERim, and we've prepared for Pesach for a few times. And again, this is not a halachic session. If you have a question halacha, please ask your local Orthodox rabbi. But this is mainly an issue of common sense and morals and ethics and milad b'chasedusa, like we call the Pirkei Avos. Just a few possibly good ideas, and you could take and leave whatever you like. Before we get into the questions, I would just like to set down a little bit of a standard here, and I'm going to offer 3 general rules that I will be referring to throughout the evening. Again, these are my own. I mean, they're not Tyrus Lokshin. You could take them, you could leave them, but I think that if we keep these in mind, we will be able to move through the process a lot easier and with a little bit less stress and anxiety. Rule number 1 is, when we are preparing for the SEDER, and we're doing all of the preparations and we're getting ready to do that, please keep this one statement in mind. If you are a man and you are a husband, what can I do to make my wife's yontiv easier? That should be like when we think about Shivisi Hashem L'Negdi Samid, what can I do to make my wife's yontiv easier? If you're a woman, your thought is, what can I do to make my husband's yontiv more pleasurable? If we can somehow integrate those 2 statements in our daily activities and not fall back on our natural inclination, which is our selfish gene, which is always going to be our way to look at things. The whole world revolves just around me. Our default position always is going to be me, me, me. But to not from today till after the SEDERim. Now we're going to think of somebody else, and we're going to be able to appreciate and actively act what the Rebbe says and explains the difference between the matzah and the chametz, that the chametz symbolizes extreme egoism. That means it's all about me. It rises, it's arrogant, it has no room for anybody else. And matzah, on the other hand, symbolizes humility. It is a poor man's bread. And the matzah tells us that humility gets us a lot further than if we only think about ourselves and our ego. So please, if there's nothing else you take out tonight, just remember this. how can I make my spouse's life easier and more pleasurable for the rest of this little period, preparation and through the SEDER. I mean, it's, you know what, we're always willing to extend ourselves and to help another person. Tzedakah is always given to someone else. This time we are going to think about the tzedakah that we do for our own families. Your wife and your husband deserve that you put your best foot forward now. So that's rule number 1. Rule number 2 is show appreciation. I mean, how many times in the Torah do we talk about gratitude? The whole mitzvah of Bikurim was only given to us so that we're not kafui toiv. We come and we make a statement to Rabbi Shalom, thank you so much for giving of the fruit of the land, of the holy land of Eretz Yisrael, and year after year we do this, and we thank him over and over again. Why? So we should not be ungrateful. And if we do this for the Rabbi Shalom, we should do it for our spouses as well. If your wife is working hard, how much effort does it take to show a little bit of gratitude, to say, thank you, I know that you put so much into this. I really appreciate it. The Kinderlach appreciate it. You know, thank you over and over again. And not only that, but you may also take that appreciation and turn it into something practical. Maybe you buy her something, surprise her with a gift before Yontif. And the same thing is true if you're a wife to a husband. You know, we appreciate so much what you do for our family. We know you work so hard all year to provide for us. Thank you. We don't take it for granted. We love you so very much, and, you know, we're doing all of this, and we want to make this the most beautiful yontif for you because we know how hard you try for our family and the things that you help me around the house. I never, ever, ever just expect it for nothing. I care for you. And I appreciate everything that you do. Gratitude is one of the most key elements when it comes to living a happy and meaningful life. Studies have shown over and over again that when people have gratitude, are able to say thank you and appreciate it, and don't believe that everything is owed to them, live a much, much healthier, happier, Hasidische, fromme, and meaningful life. So please, try to show some kind of appreciation this week, more than we do for the rest of the year. And number 3 rule is mind your own business, meaning that everybody is going to approach this yontif and going to do in this yontif the way they see fit as adults. I tell a story always about my brother-in-law Benji, who's Benji Stock is my brother-in-law. Married Chanie is Benji's sister. My shver was Shimshon Stock. Some of you may have known him. Some of you may have heard of him. Anyways, Benji, my brother-in-law, comes to the SEDER to his father's house the year after his marriage. And his wife is pregnant, a young wife, a young bride. In the middle of the SEDER, she says to Benji, I am so tired. I'm so tired right now. And what Benji does is, Benji says to her, you know what, dear, why don't you go and take a rest right now? Go upstairs. Go to sleep. I know that you're tired. After she leaves, my father-in-law says to him, how interesting, Benji. All the years when Mommy would say to you, you know what, I'm so tired, you would berate her for not finishing the 4 kaises, for not eating the matzah, and you made her life, you know, tough. Now that you're married and it's a first wife, so now, you know what, the first year of marriage and the wife, you say to her, you know, honey, please go rest up. The lesson, Benji, is mind your own business. Live your own life. When it comes to your puppet, you know exactly how to feel. So, ladies and gentlemen, again here, your husband, your wife, you are going to do it your way, and your wife, your spouse, your relatives, your in-laws may do it somehow else. Mind your own business. These are 3 of, I think, practical things that keep in mind. How you make your spouse's life easier, show appreciation, and the 3rd one is going to be mind your own business. And with that, we can open it up for questions or whatever how you would like to run this, Devorah.
All right, so thank you. Those are really important. And those will be on the website also, on the recording. So we got some questions in advance, and we'll start with the first one. Pesach is so much work. How to get everyone to pitch in and not kvetch about it?
Okay, so let's understand this. Okay, let's put this on the table. Okay, cleaning is boring. No one likes to do cleaning. Not the mommy, not the tati, not the children. Nobody likes cleaning. So if you don't like the cleaning, mommy, tati, why should your children like the cleaning? So what we have to do now is we have to start getting creative. We have to start understanding how can we pull together and do this without making ourselves miserable. So number one rule is don't nag. Don't nag. If you tell your kinderlach, teenagers, young children, whatever it is, clean your room and they haven't done it, do not repeat yourself 25 times. All that does is adds to the stress, adds to the tension in the room, and it's going to become a big blow-up. Here are a few practical things to do if you want everybody in the family to be able to participate without shouting at each other and without causing a tremendous tumult. Number one is communication, meaning stop the show. Stop. Take everybody around the table and talk about it. Say, this is what needs to be done. The house needs to be cleaned. The kitchen needs to be clean. Your rooms need to be vacuumed. The swarm shank needs to be dusted. Patty, you need to kasher the ovens. Everyone, talk about it and include them in the process. Don't start telling them now, one thing here, one thing there. Stop. Everybody around the table. This is what needs to be done, and this is how I think that we are going to get it. Communications. Plan beforehand. Mean, you know what? Don't come Erev Pesach and now say, oh my gosh, we have this, we're missing this, we didn't do this. Planning beforehand is critical to everything here. Critical. It's going to make a huge difference of how your Yontiv is going to go, how the preparations are going to go, and how the actual storm are going to go. So sit down, not tomorrow, not the next day, not next week, not Erev Pesach, but now. Sit down now. Make lists. Set up priorities. What's going to happen first? Who's going to do it? Better planning makes an easier time to get things done and have a wonderful and beautiful Yontiv. Bribe your children. When I say bribe them, this is done all the time in Chinuch. It's done. We finish a parak in Gemara, we're all going to go to the park to play baseball. We're going to get good grades on our tests. We're going to go on a little trip. We're going to have the day off. So you tell your kinderlach, listen, kinderlach, we get this done, that he's going to bring pizza in. We're going to get this done, we're going to go on a beautiful outing on Chol Hamoed. Set up a reward system. If your kids are a little in an age where it makes a difference to them, and put things at scale. We hit a certain number of points, kinderlach, we're going to do something very, very, very special. Give them an incentive to work. The next one, work as a team. It's very lonely when you go into a room and you start cleaning by yourself. And it gets depressing where everybody's out there, on their iPads and on their phone this and on their this, and your husband is not around and this and that. Work as a team. Pull everybody in and say, you know what, for the next hour or 2 or 3, we're going to everyone work together, and we're going to start with the bedroom. We're going to work through all the bedrooms, and then we're going to move on to the laundry room. Then we'll move on to the bathrooms, and before you know it, everybody is working and doing their thing, but they see everybody working. What's going to happen if you start giving your children a chore, and they do it, then the husband comes in, he kicks off his shoes, he takes the newspaper, he sits on the recliner, everybody's working, and he's sitting on the recliner. That just blows everything to smithereens. Work as a team. So if you do this, if you pre-plan, and you're able to, understand exactly what you need to be done because you put everything everything down on paper, and you're able to communicate this clearly to your children and to your husband and everybody else that's around. And even if the children are teenagers, even if they're young adults, even if they're married, it doesn't matter. Communications is the most important thing. Most important thing is to communicate with them. Talk to them about it, show them, include them in the process, set up an incentive, for them, work together as a team, and then above all, if nothing else works, start crying. Now, scratch the last one. You don't need to start crying. You don't need to start crying. You won't have to cry because you listen to the first few ideas beforehand. And remember, this is not something that people want to do willingly. But the more you include them in the process, the more they're going to buy into it. And the more they buy into it, the more it's going to get done with less angst and less anxiousness and all of these things. So that's my few pointers and ideas to get the kids to help and your husband to help and the wife to help and to do it with less stress than is necessary.
Thank you. Okay.
All right. Okay.
All right. This one's about chumras, which you kind of touched on at the very beginning.
Yes. Now, to me, it was very curious, Devorah. When we talked about this in the beginning, you said one of the questions will be chumras. I want to know, why didn't you say kolis? Why didn't you talk about kolis? Today,
that's a good question.
I would surmise today you're more bigger chance that someone is to come home with a kula than a chumrah. If I come home with a chumrah, okay, let's work together. What if the guy never ate strawberries and this year he decided, you know what? I'm going to eat strawberries this year. It's stupidity. It's idiocy. You know, garlic. It's idiocy. What? I'm now going to start doing this. And I want you to start cooking with garlic, and I don't want to peel the vegetables anymore, etc., etc., etc. To me, this is a bigger issue than the chumras.
So
if someone comes with a kula. They say that if someone does this, if someone comes with a kula into the house and says, you know what, or she says to him, he says to her, whichever one is trying out to change the dynamics of the family structure, I say that this is not a Pesach question. This is not a Pesach question. A chumrah may be a Pesach question, but a kula really is a question on the relationship that people have to Yadus, to Yiddishkeit. And I would say, you know what? Right now we need to re-examine where we are in our Yiddishkeit. Because if someone all of a sudden wakes up and he doesn't want to keep a chumrah anymore, he doesn't want to keep any, he wants to do a kula. To me, it's a little bit deeper issue that needs to be discussed. Now, practically speaking, I think it's unfair of either spouse, after they've made commitments for themselves for many years to a certain lifestyle, for one person to change that dynamic independently, coming in and say, you know what, honey, this year you're going to cook, I'm going to eat strawberries, or I'm going to eat sugar, or whatever the circumstances are going to be. I think it's extremely unfair for one person to do that. Very, very selfish if you've already committed to living a certain lifestyle. I think that kula is a much deeper issue and needs to be dealt with after Yom Tov in a very, very serious and practical way. Chanie wants to say something.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. I just want to say something that a lot of, especially about the kula, the kids come in and they say, the Rab said you were allowed to have this or garlic. The Rab said you're allowed to. Why don't we have it? My answer to the children is, this is the way I've always done it. In your house, you could do it if the Rab said. I could live without it for 1 week. I don't have to have it. There's plenty of food. And that's my answer. I seem to be very happy to take it. Anything else?
You can go ahead.
So the next question. I want the kids to go to sleep at a decent hour. My husband wants them to stay up for the whole SEDER.
Okay. Well, we began to talk about something called common sense. Okay? Here you need literally a little bit of common sense and compromise. First of all, how old are the children? If the children are preschool age, what is the guy kidding? Well, he wants a 3-year-old to stay up to midnight at the SEDER. He's talking about, if children are teenagers, you want them to stay at the SEDER. This is a question of sitting down and common sense. It may be that the wife has to impress upon the husband, if you would move a little quicker and we move up the SEDER a little faster, the children would be able to stay a little bit longer. But you're not going to be the one that's going to chase them around the table and they're screaming and crying. I'm going to have to do that. You're going to sit over there and you're going to say that God, then you're going to give all the Perushim of the Rebbe and everything else, and I'm going to be the one dealing with the kids. So if you want to do that, you need to make and pre-plan. This is another extremely important point, is if you pre-plan, sit down before Yom Tov and talk this through. This is not something that needs to be talked about when the husband comes home from Shul on Yom Tov. This needs to be talked about tomorrow. You sit and say, okay, this is what we want to do. We're only going to start the SEDER late this year. Okay, so what are we going to do? The kinderlach are going to take a nap. You're going to make sure that you're going to come on time. Don't spend time talking with your friends. We're going to start the SEDER on time, and this way the children will be able to be able to pre-plan. Saves a tremendous amount of heartache. If we just do a little bit of that, between now and Pesach. Again, the idea, another critical issue is communication. Talk about it. I mean, we don't learn this in yeshiva. We learn Gemara, we learn Chassidus, we learn Kabbalah, we learn, but communication? Well, what is communication? So communicate. And the more you're able to communicate with your spouse, both she to him and him to her, it's going to be much, much easier to overcome these issues. And think about the question of balance. Balance it. I mean, if your children are able to sit through the SEDER in a respectful manner and don't ruin the whole SEDER, okay, do that. But if your children are not, I mean, they're all hyped up and they're running around and they're screaming, and you expect them to sit there, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So compromise and pre-planning and communication, I can't say enough about this to solve some of these issues. I mean, it's literally, you think common sense, but again, we just want to reiterate once over and over again about talking to each other, communicating, make sure there's a balance in the family, plan beforehand, and compromise a little bit here and there.
Connie, you want to add to that?
No, I have nothing to say.
All right. The next question that came in, another one. We're going to my in-laws for Pesach. My husband doesn't understand why I'm not thrilled about it.
Okay. I'm going to say something, and Chanie is going to say something. I'm just going to talk to a very practical issue. And I just want to reiterate again, and I know that this is known by everybody, but it's not thought about many times. The wife going to the in-laws, she's going to her shviger, a bad word. To him, they're going to his mother, a good word. So whatever you're going to say about your shviger, realize that it's his mother. So your shviger may be a machshefa. Yes, she's a machshefa, but ultimately she's his mother. So the words that come out of your mouth about her and what you say about his family is hurtful. Even if it's correct, even if it's right, it's hurtful. That's all. Chanie has something else she'd like to add. So my only issue is you're going to your in-laws. Okay, it may not be excited, they don't treat you very well, or whatever your relationship is. Just be careful with what you say about them, because words that come out of your mouth in 3 seconds take 30 years to put back in. Chanie.
Okay, so the relationship between a mother-in-law and a daughter-in-law is a very difficult relationship, even to the best of people. Yes, sometimes you say, I have the best mother-in-law, the best daughter-in-law, but generally it is a very, very hard relationship. And when you're talking for Pesach, it's difficult. But you need to just plan. And just be considerate. It's not your mother. You can't. My mother-in-law said to me, don't treat me like I'm your mother, and I won't treat you like you're my daughter. What she meant was you could treat me as a mother. You could treat me as a daughter. You treat me more nicely like a friend. It's not your mother, and you just be courteous, respectful, and it's like my husband says, it is your husband's mother. Now, if it's a situation that it's different, there's nothing wrong with bringing your own snash. There's nothing wrong with that. If they don't eat the same food, bring your own stuff. There's not on to make sure you have yours too. It's not your mother's food. A husband going to mother-in-law is very different. A daughter going to a mother-in-law is always going to be hard.
Mm-hmm.
Even I have 4 daughter-in-laws. I'm not, I'm not.
They're not your daughters.
They're not my daughters. I love them, but they're not my daughters. And I'm not, I don't expect them to be as thrilled I'm here as they are to go to their own homes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Another one. My spouse wants tons of guests for every meal, and I like that most meals should be about our family.
Okay. So let me say this. In the Torah, there's 613 mitzvahs. There's one mitzvah that gets mentioned more than any other mitzvah, and that of Avodah Zarah. More than 50 times the Rabbi Shalom warns about the Avodah Zarah. I want to tell you a story about myself. It was a number of years ago, many years ago. My children were small. We were doing a SEDER in our house. And we had set up, and we had guests coming, and we were very busy and all of that stuff. My youngest son, that year was in 4th grade. Here in Long Beach, California, 4th grade, they have a wonderful MARROR at that time, and she taught all the children the 4 questions in Yiddish. Normally, we were English-speaking school. This was her claim to fame, that every child in that class going to know the 4 questions, the 4 kashas in Yiddish. And my son came home, and he had his agoda, and he set up his agoda next to my place, and he was excited beyond anyone's imagination. Well, to make a long story short, we had more people than we expected. A few of my special balabatim came without making a reservation. And I told my son, because I lost myself and I wanted to impress one of my balabatim, to take a god and move it to the back of the room. Move it to the back of the room. He got so angry at me. He got so angry at me that he took his agad, he threw it down, and he went out of the room. He wouldn't come to the SEDER. Wouldn't come to the SEDER. Why? So the next day in Shul, I got up, and in a public forum, I said, yesterday, I was Oived Avodah Zarah, because one of the ways that you're Oived Avodah Zarah is a thing called Malach. They used to bring their children, and they used to bring sacrifices to this Getchke. And last night, I sacrificed my own child. I sacrificed my own child to a Getchke. It was my ego, because I wanted to my balabatim. So I told my son to take somewhere else and to move to the back of the room. That day, it taught me a tremendous lesson, that our children are our number one responsibility. Number one, and number 2, and number 3, and number 4, and number 5. He got over it after I took him to Disneyland and I bought him a few games, and I did this and I did that and that and that, over a barrel. So I think after 20-some years, I think he's forgiven me at this time. But why are we sacrificing our food? I mean, if the mother says that, I want part of this yontif to be for our family. The Torah does not say that you should have to tell the story. It says, tell your children, keep telling children, educate your children. I mean, especially in the Shlichus world, I've argued many times that, we're so busy and we kind of so many Yidden, we want to bring them in that we completely lose sight of what's the most important part of our existence, our family, and what's going to be with our children. They tell a famous story of a chas, and the name escapes me, what doesn't matter. It was a time of either Rebbe Rashab, the Rebbe Marash, and he was coming to Shul a little late. So they screamed at him and they said to him, hey, when you come to Shul here, we're finished davening, we're by Aleinu. He said, I woke up this morning at 5 o'clock, I went to the mikveh and learned 2 hours chassidus. And then I was about to come to Shul. I was walking down the street, and then I saw this mother. I looked through the window, and I saw with 7 kinderlach, and they were crying. They were making the school. So I walked into the house, and I helped her. I made breakfast for the children. I calmed her down. I got them dressed. I led them off to SEDER. And I'm not here in Shul. So everybody's going, oh, bitch, I can't believe that. Tzaddik, mamish, story. He said, and then I said, who does it bother that it was my wife and kids? Huh? My wife and kids don't need that kind of attention. I'm going to be a shlemazel. He's helping his wife and his kids. That was just a profound lesson that we lose sight. So when this mother begs her husband and says to him, listen, I know you want guests, but I need our attention. This is a young that's dedicated to the children, all the children. The whole SEDER is based on children. He has to be able to compromise on this. I'm not saying that every meal should only be the family. Chassidism is a big thing, and you want guests, and it's a beautiful thing, but never, ever, ever put your children in a second place, because with your guests, you'll get a second chance to invite them. With your children, you don't get a second chance to educate them. It's one and done. And if you don't do it right the first time, you pay the piper down the line. So this is my little thing about children and having them as the number one guest in your family. Chanie?
Now, what about if it's not children? You don't have children anymore. You're older, the kids aren't little, and the husband wants a lot of guests. I think, yeah, you have to compromise. Who's doing the cooking? Who's doing the cleaning? Who's doing everything? You have to sit down and plan which meals you're having guests and which meals you're not.
Okay. Another question. Oh, boy. Every year, my husband checks over everything I do. I'm insulted, feel not trusted. This causes stress and waste of time that he could be helping with something else.
Okay. So let's get to the bottom line on this question. This is not a Pesach question. This is a mental health question. This is not the husband checking about you for bugs on the MARROR. This is literally a mental health question. If your husband is doing this, he is what we call a control freak. And a control freak needs to seek help, because this if he does this during Pesach, he's doing this all year. This is not something he does only before Pesach. And control freaks were raised like dysfunctional parents. I mean, everything he did as a kid was never good enough. He never showed anything that he was able to accomplish anything. So now in life, every time he does something, he's rechecking it. It's perfect. So I would have just two pieces of advice for women that's going through this. Number one is understand that this has nothing to do with you. Has absolutely nothing to do with you. You are doing a tremendous, wonderful, great job, and everything they do is perfect. He suffers from extreme anxiety, and that's why he's acting to you the way he's acting to you. So this is absolutely no show on what kind of a balabuster you are or everything like that. Number two is stay calm. Stay calm. With control freaks, it's very easy to lose your cool, because everything you do is never good enough, and let's say recheck, stay calm. But again, this is not a Pesach question. This is a mental health issue, and I would tell this person, please, after you need to seek out a good therapist to help you with this issue. Chanie?
He basically said it.
All right. Number 7. The kids are excited for the SEDER. When my husband comes home, he starts setting up his KAARAH. Everything is already on the table, like the bowl of eggs, the MARROR, everything. But somehow it takes him forever to get started, and the kids get antsy. How can I get him to start the SEDER on time?
It's okay. This is, again, you know, now when you're marrying this guy, he's a slow-moving vehicle. A slow-moving vehicle is not only about the SEDER, okay? So how are you going to help him? Number one is talk this through. Tell him, dear Shmerel, you know what? It's late. The kids are hungry. The kids are antsy. Maybe you feed the kids a little bit beforehand so the kids don't get so crazy. Give them something beforehand so when he comes home and you know that it's going to be a slow-moving vehicle. But help him as much as you possibly can. If that means putting the eggs and everything right there next to him and picking out the matzahs before he comes home from Shul so he has already the shleimus ready to go, maybe this will speed it up. But again, I find that all of these questions, these are not isolated instances. A slow-moving vehicle is a slow-moving vehicle on Shabbos as well. It's a slow-moving vehicle in general. But this particular case, so normally his slowness is not going to affect that much. But tonight, you're under the gun because, again, we're talking about a family with kids, you're mentioning, and especially the second SEDER is only going to start after Motzei Shabbos. It's already 9:30 when you're starting. You know, I mean, do whatever you can. Again, it's a halacha because there's many shilas again from Shabbos going into Yom. So whatever you can to do, prepare beforehand for him. Help him out, but understand that he's gonna, he may help himself a little bit, you may move a little bit, but all of a sudden he's not going to become Speedy Gonzalez and then walk in there and be moving at a pace of 20 miles per hour. This is who he is. This is who you're married. Love him. You care for him. He's the father of your children. So here you're going to have to just compromise and just swallow and say to yourself, you know what? Shmer ain't going to be the fastest guy in the Olympics.
All right. Chanie?
I agree with that.
All right. My husband's family is coming to us. They offered to help, as they should, but they always start so late and are so slow. The meal starts so late because I'm making the salads. Why should I do it all? How can I tell them or him that we have to be ready to start on time?
Well, here's family dynamics come into play. So, I don't know if there are two families that are the same. And since you're talking to the Perelmutters, let me give you a little history about the Perelmutters and the Stocks. Okay? I come from two parents who are Holocaust survivors. Right? My father was a man that was extremely quiet, and that's who I take after. I hardly say a word. My father, if you took him to a party and you put him down on a chair, 6 hours later he was still sitting in that same chair. He didn't move. My mother, on the other hand, was a little bit more lively, but again, a survivor from Auschwitz. We had two children, me and my sister. Our house was extremely quiet. The phone rang twice during the week. It was a big deal. And the phone rang. We all four of us ran. There's a phone call. Okay, excitement. Shabbos, it took 15 minutes to hold SEDER. We ate, we left. Okay, extremely quiet. People, my father loved to be in the mikveh at 5 o'clock in the morning, say the whole time every day. This was his love. My mother was already, again, a Holocaust survivor. I come to this family and someone convinces me to date this girl. Okay, fine. I know about Shimshon and stuff. I didn't know who he was. I come into this family after my engagement. There's no front door. There's literally no front door in the Stock family. The first of Shabbos, I mean, over there, people are coming and they're going, they're coming and they're going. It's a train station. I went for the first dinner. My shver had two phones on his hand. One, he was making a shidduch because he was a shadchan. The other one was selling plastics to a guy in China because he was a salesman. And I'm thinking to myself, what if he sells the plastics to the guys looking for a shidduch and the girl to the guy in China? I couldn't believe this family. It was so different to me. We were so extremely opposite-ended. And you know what? My shver sat down with me and we worked it out. And we thought to myself, when my mother comes here, and my parents came there, they looked at this. She walked into my wedding. It was 600 people. And we had 4 people there, 10 people there. I told my father, we had to raise hall. And yet, you know what? Somehow 39 years later, even with the differences of all these families' dynamics, it worked its way out. If you're wanting to work, out. So here comes a family. They're willing to help you. They're going to make the salads. Why should you do the work? And you're absolutely correct. Why should you do all of the work? It's great news. Think about how many guests come into your house and don't offer to help. Sit and meal and then just leave and say, arrivederci, see you later, yashakay, thank you very much. So here comes a family, your husband's family, or turn it around the other way, but here's the question, the husband's family, and his mother and his sisters and his sister-in-laws or whatever it is are willing to help you. Roll with the punches. This is Yom Tif. You want to get the meals going a little quicker? Yes. Maybe you say to them, you know what, Shviger, the children are hungry, the children are crying. Maybe we can speed up the process a little bit. But it's Yom Tif. It's Yom Tif. Cut them a little bit of slack. The greatness, think about the positive side, that's willing to help you out. I mean, the other way, they're going to come over there and they're going to completely sit there. How would you feel at that time? So here you have to just be a little bit flexible, a little bit compromising. And you know what? If you don't take it, if it's mind over matter, if you don't mind, it's not going to matter. You know, you'll sit down, it'll be another 5 minutes, another 10 minutes. You live through, and you'll be okay. I promise. Chanie wants to say something.
I want to say that Yom Tov meals, especially at night or even in the morning, the kids are hungry. And not only the kids, I can't wait till 10 o'clock at night to eat. So this is where you always have to have something ready. You always, Erev Yom Tov is a very big one. You have to have something to eat. And this is going to be at 10 o'clock at night. So at 7 o'clock, you need to feed the kids something else. And yourself. You can't, everybody's busy feeding the kids. You don't feed yourself, and then you're in a bad mood. So I think that it's nice they're helping, but you still have to make sure that there's something that you could grab to eat.
Very practical. Thanks, Chanie. Okay, next. My in-laws are coming to us. My spouse spends the whole time catching up with his or her family and doesn't spend much time with the kids or me. How could I get him or her to realize that our family should be most important?
Okay. Now this lady is literally scratching the bottom of the barrel in this question. She's literally scratching the bottom of the barrel in this question. This is what we call a first world problem here. His family is coming from out of town. He has not seen them. Okay? They're coming to visit him. He wants to spend some time. He's with you and the children 364 days a year, 360 days a year. He's with you and the children. He's a good husband. He's dedicated to you. He loves you. He cares for you. He shows gratitude to you. He's a wonderful man. So now his family is coming. He wants to spend a little bit of time with them. This is going to upset you. This is going to upset you that he doesn't spend time with your children at the time. I see the kids, the Shluchim brothers come together. They're all over the world. One is in Germany, one is in Pittsburgh, one is in Shanghai. They're all when they come together. They're lost. I mean, you could see on their faces the joy, the warmth, the happiness that they get when they see each other. Here comes his family. He may not have seen them a whole year. He wants to spend a little bit of time with his parents and his brothers and his sisters. I mean, how is this? Remember what I said in the beginning. How can I make my husband's Yom Tov more enjoyable? By allowing him some slack and saying to him, you know what, Remy, your parents are here. Spend some time with them. I'm so happy to see that you have a wonderful relationship with your family. It's so good to see you and your brothers and your sisters laughing like this. Think about how your children are going to relate to this. Your children see their tatis and uncles and the aunts and the bubby and the zaidi and the elder zaidi and the elder bub getting along so beautifully. They're having a good time with each other. Encourage them to do this. You have them right after Achron Shal Pesach, they get on a plane and they leave. They're out of the picture, and you have it for the rest of the year. Enjoy it. Enjoy this. Don't think so much. I mean, you wrap yourself up in these angst, these situations that doesn't need any angst. Of course, listen, at the SEDER, like I said before, you need to give time to your children at the meals. But now a situation, the family is coming, and you won't allow the time with the family. Think about the things. How can I make my husband's life and Yom Tov more pleasurable? And if he wants to spend a few extra minutes with his mother and his father, who he doesn't see a whole year, and you probably live in a town where you are living, where you spend all the time with your parents. Every time you go to your parents' house, and your sisters are always in the house, and his family comes, cut him some slack. Cut him some slack. Be happy with what is going on. If he's happier over Yom Tov, think what's not the Yom Tov. No, but what you're going to do is you're going to force him. Oh, no. You're going to force him to concentrate on me. I need more attention. I need more. So, I mean, how do you think he's going to react to that? Be kind, be soft, have a soft heart. Shalom bayis doesn't only mean that I have to be the happiest guy in town. I have to be the happiest person. You know what? You could be happy if you allowed yourself to be happy. And if this was my situation, I saw my husband and his family getting like this, it would be the greatest pleasure for me. I would encourage him to do this. I would love it, and I would say this was a beautiful example of how you get along with your family for my kinderlach.
I just want to say this works.
It works both ways. Yeah, of course. This is a question of his family. If it's her family, it's the same thing. Exactly. I would encourage this to get along with the family and spend time with the family the whole year. Don't think less about yourself and more about him a little bit. And believe me, this will melt away. This problem will melt away.
Chanie?
I think she's done. She ran away.
I just wanted to say that it's the same thing with a girl. If her sisters are coming, the husband has to appreciate that she needs to with her family. That's all. And
get a good book.
Once we did Pesach, it's a whole week of Chalamayom. So there's time for everything.
Yeah.
There's plenty of time to do everything, to have his side, to have your kids, and what's so terrible, and you have time alone. That's so good.
Yeah. Okay. Next. Everything costs so much. I'd rather a new big food processor, and my husband wants to buy extra matzah because he doesn't want to run out. Every year we have tons of leftovers.
So, you want extra matzah? You'll be eating matzah right till Rosh Hashanah. Finish. Okay? You want every time there's going to be extra matzah, I'm not throwing it in the garbage. Especially shmur matzah is $20 a pound. It's going to be coming out of your ears.
My
wife is giving me the look. Of course, I don't mean that. I mean, this is a question of finances. I mean, I know you had a whole series on finances, how you sit down and you divvy it up. I mean, really? I mean, if the wife is asking you for a food processor, okay, and she's using this to make her life a little bit easier, so your yontif should be more pleasurable, are you out of your mind? Are you out of your mind? Of course, you say to her, honey, without question, last year we used 10 pounds, we'll use 10 pounds this year. Maybe I'll buy one extra pound, but for you, honey, you need the food processor, you get the food processor. Because why? Because rule number one is, how do I make my wife's life easier for yontif? Be a man and admit that you don't need all that matzah. You don't need 17 pounds of more matzah for Pesach Sheni. You can get away with a little bit less than 17 pounds. But here again, we go back to the same issue, reiterating over and over again, compromise, understanding. It's common sense. I mean, if you're this kind of a guy that's so anal, that's so wrapped up in the idea that you're going to run out of matzah on Pesach, relax, take it easy, sit down, go back to rule number one. Rule number one is, how am I going to make my wife's life better? Shalom Bayis is paramount here. I can't tell you how many sichos, how many letters the Rebbe over and over again stressed this idea, how profound Shalom Bayis is, how important. It's the only time the Rebbe writes, the only time you see the Serious Nefesh by the Rabbi Shalom. He went on the Serious Nefesh by the SEDER. He allows his name, it's Kaddish, the holy name of Hashem, to be erased in water. Why? To save a Jewish marriage, the Rabbi Shalom is willing to extend himself even to let his own name, the holiest of holies, be erased. So the Rebbe writes, if that's true with the Rabbi, it puts so much kindness into a family. How about us? How about us? That all the brachas that we get in our families only because of a shalom bayis. And the more that there is shalom bayis, the greater the blessings are going to be on the children, the greater the blessings will be in parnasa, and the greater the blessings are going to be in everything that we do, in health issues and all of this. I mean, take any igris, you will see how the Rebbe begs, pleads with people to take this seriously. I mean, it's important to put on two pairs of yes, it's important to do all the things. But Shalom Bayis is the cornerstone for the Eibishter's. It's a keli for the Eibishter's brachas. Literally, it's a keli for the Eibishter's brachas. And this guy is so mahander in making sure that he has 17 extra pounds of matzah should open up an igris and learn the Rebbe's the letters and the sichos on Shalom Bayis, and then he's going to, believe me, he'll run and buy his wife the food processor afterwards. Chanie?
I agree.
Chanie is the stock with the more talking. Okay.
Yes.
And this is the last question that we have.
Yay!
Then you can have your afterword. Okay.
Okay.
Food. My husband wants to have tons of food. I don't feel like cooking so much, and it's a huge expense. And then a similar question, so I'm putting them together, also about food. My wife cooks so much food. I'd rather she make less and be less stressed, and it would also save us money.
Okay. So I'm going to answer, and I'm sure Chani's going to want to add upon this. I'm going to play the role of the wife. Husband comes in and says, Chanie, ask me to cook more food. Just say, cook more food to me. We're going to role reversal. And say, Abba, could you please cook more food? That's first. My husband wants to have tons of food. So say, Abba, please cook more food. Can you do that? Ask the question. See, we don't get along. We don't get along.
Can you cook more food?
No, I can't cook more food. I'm exhausted. I've been on my feet all day. I'm preparing for Pesach. I can't. No. No is a good answer too. We talk about shalom bayis, and we talk about compromise, and we talk about all of these things, yes, but there comes a point in time when a woman has to say to herself, I got to take a stand. My husband is expecting me to stand on my feet Seder night till 12 o'clock at night, and another Seder night till 1 o'clock at night, and then every day of Yom Tov, all day cooking. This is achzarius. This is literally cruelty in the issue. So to me, I have no problem. If I was the woman, I have a little word and said, no, I'm not going to. If you want to cook, buy yourself a cookbook. You want to go ahead and sit in the kitchen. You want tons of food to impress your friends. Go right ahead. But to me, there's the filter fish, there's a salad, there's chicken, there's tzimmus, there's whatever you eat on Pesach. This is Pesach food. This is what we have over here. You want tons of food. Make more money. We'll go to KMR or MARROR or some other Pesach program. You'll have as much food as you want. But if we're going to be here for Pesach in this house, I am not a slave. This is called the holiday of freedom, not the holiday of slavery. If you want extra food, you're not going to get it from me. And I have no problem whatsoever, even with all the compromise, everything I said before about shalom bayis and about caring about your spouse, to say that to him. Because this request is not even in a sense of anushis. It's not even in a sense to make your wife suffer like this with extra tons of food at every meal. Has to be like a cheslerish's party. No. No. It's a very powerful word when you say it, and it gets a tremendous reaction from the other side when you actually put your foot down and say no. And guess what? It invokes in him a sense of regret that hopefully, if he's a stickle mensch, he's going to realize that his request was so out of bounds that it's going to wake up within the nefesh likis that he has within inside of him, and he's going to have KAARAH, and he's going to say, honey, you're absolutely correct. What was I thinking? Please make a nice meal, and I'll be more than happy. On the other side of it, okay, Chanie.
Okay, I just want to say something. That there's a little bit of competition in who works the hardest and who works harder, who stayed up later, who cooked more, who cooked nicer. The pictures look better on the internet of the food they cooked. You have to separate yourself from this competition. And you have to really think about yourself. The bottom line is, if you're going to be miserable preparing for Pesach, your kids will know that. Whether you're a man or a woman who does cooking doesn't matter. But if you're going to be miserable and complain the whole time while you're preparing, whether it's cooking or cleaning, that's what your children will remember. They will remember how much their mother or father, whoever it was, complained, how hard it was, because it is a little competition. So you have to remove yourself from that. I don't work that hard. We're not doing that. We're doing whatever's easier we're doing. That's my goal for Pesach. What less I could cook, what less fancy. Yeah, I have to put food on the table for a lot of people, but I want to have a good time too. And I think the frame of mind, this lady who's anxious is going to be anxious even if she has two people to cook for. So it's a frame of mind, not necessarily the amount and the time, a frame of mind. We have to say, put yourself in a good place preparing for Pesach.
Well said. No pictures on Instagram or Facebook.
No.
No.
Okay.
Exactly.
So those are the questions that came in before, and actually the ones that came in over this call are very similar. So I think we addressed all those questions that came in. So thank you. Do you have any final thoughts, final words?
I would just say like this. David Melech wrote in Tehillim, Ivdu Hashem b'simcha. We have to go to this with joy and like Chanie says, with happiness. Remember one thing, your children see and realize and know everything that goes on between you and your spouse over the holidays. They know everything. And if you put any extra stress, whether it's the wife or it's the husband, the children notice it, then what kind of message are you giving to them? This is man cheirusenu. You want to give them the best possible chinuch, the best possible, even if the children are older. It doesn't matter only if they're young. It's all about you and your spouse to come to this with a realization that this is a wonderful time of the year. Man cheirusenu. The Rabbi Shalom did us the greatest favor and took our forefathers and foremothers out of Mitzrayim. And we are here going to make this the best possible yontif for ourselves. If you have that in mind and you could integrate that and say to yourself that this is the real reason why we're doing all of this, not by 90% of those questions were all answered in a similar fashion, but in just a roundabout way, that it's all about a little bit of appreciation, common sense, gratitude, pre-planning. Just simply sit down with the spouse, sit down with the children, talk it through, be open with each other, be able to appreciate. This is a wonderful time. The brachas that the Rabbi Shalom sends down on Pesach are Barnam. This is Leil Shimurim. This is the night of all nights. It's incredible. And if we want to capture those wonderful brachas, we need to make a keli. And there's no greater keli than Shalom. There's no greater keli that when the Rabbi Shalom comes down and sees a family that is sitting at the SEDER together in peace and in harmony and love and kindness and chassidishkeit, and the children are there and they're appreciating it, and our egos are sublimated. We push our egos down not to be thinking only about ourselves, but it's about the greater picture of bringing down the Rabbi Shloim's and the Rebbe's brachas into our family that will protect and guide us, both the husband and the wife and the children, for not only for Pesach, but throughout the entire year. We want to gather those nitzutz of those brachas from the Rabbi Shloim. So please, I encourage everyone to just use a little bit of common sense. Don't fall back on that old thing of the selfish gene. We're all cursed with that. That's the way the Rabbi Shalom made us, but we don't have to live that way. We can choose to be a wonderful, good, caring, compassionate person when it comes to this. All it takes is a little bit of planning. All it takes is communications and compromise. And me and Chanie, we wish everyone that they have a Chag Kosher Sameach, a wonderful yontif, that you should go to yontif b'simcha. Not only should you have a simcha in yontif, but on the way to the journey should be b'simcha. And everyone have a good yontif, and the Rebbeinu Shalom should bless us. Take us out of this bitter ghost. I mean, that's what we really want, to bring us to Yerushalayim or HaKadosh, or once again we'll be with Mashiach Tzidkenu b'mheira v'yameinu mamish.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you, Chanie. This has been great. There's a lot of great information. This has been recorded and will be on our website. And
we're going to deny everything.
Some elements of it will be transcribed and shared. Go ahead.
It doesn't matter, because we will deny everything, divorce. So it doesn't matter. You can do whatever you like with it. We're going to say, no, it wasn't me. It was somebody else.
Yeah, well, the voice was kind of muffled, so it didn't sound exactly like you anyway.
Exactly. Thank you for the opportunity. Have a wonderful yontif. Take care.
All right. Thank you. So this will be available on Adai's website, adaiad.org, and /past-events. If you want to be informed about all the upcoming events, you can send us an email at info@adaiad.org. Once again, Adaiad addresses areas of dating effectively for successful marriage, shalom bayis, and we have a grant for addressing domestic abuse, so we have some resources and our resource for domestic abuse as well. So thank you all for joining us, and have a wonderful Kasher and Perelmuter Pesach.